This one's potentially controversial, and it is because I'm going to be talking about something quantifiable, something we typically treat or deal with or talk about within the frame of science, medicine, that sort of thing. I'm going to talk about that within the frame of energetics and I guess spirituality, I suppose. So if that sort of thing bothers you, or you just think that there's no merit to framing these sorts of discussions in that way, then just give this a skip. This is about that Robbie Harvey video about the abusive husband who was likely abusive throughout the entire relationship, but maybe it only came out in full force once his wife started dealing with cancer, became potentially terminally ill. If you are building any type of relationship with a person, and this will be any type of relationship, familial, friendship, romantic, and while you are building this relationship, you notice this person making comments about other people. You notice them consistently denigrating others. It does not have to be you, it's other people. They see something they don't like that doesn't fit their frame of preference, they have to cut it down. Get the fuck away from this person. That nasty, negative, judgmental energy that they are channeling causes disease. And I always include mental health within my discussions about illness and disease, but I mean physical disease. And I'll be black and white about it. There's not a doubt in my mind that that man caused his wife's cancer, or was at least a major contributing force. And I have no idea why she chose to remain in that relationship, or if there were extenuating circumstances that prevented her from leaving, but that is also an issue, that you remain in that energy. When you are around people like this, you will be processing all of that stress. And there is actually plenty of scientific literature that discusses how people dealing with long-term stress, long-term trauma are far more likely to be more prone to mental and physical illness. It's the stress that's breaking down the body, breaking down the immune system. And even if they're not doing it to you at first, trust me, they will. Once you deviate from what they want, you are now the enemy. And even if you never deviate, you are still participating in those dynamics, channeling and processing all of that awful energy, and you will get sick. The moment you notice it, leave. You are not special. Protect your energy and your health.
You should be deleting every girl that is your ex, that is not your friend.
He is talking to men and about men. However, this goes for any gender, any sexual presentation. If you are espousing that you are committing to a specific individual in a romantic way, or if you are a monogamist or entering into a marriage. And I have plenty of anecdotal evidence throughout my life of this kind of crap going on. People who cannot release their pasts, their exes, old friends that just overstep the boundaries, right? Anybody like that, don't get involved with them. I mean, like romantically or in a very committed way. But the thing is, I wouldn't even entertain friendships like this because I typically only want to deal with long-term, committed, decisive people. And I'm not talking about romantic relationships, but what I'm telling you is most people's behavior is not compartmentalized to one area of their life. How they're treating these people over here or these situations over here, if they're in dysfunction, that's going to be across the board. They're also going to be treating you in that way, or their relationship with you. Whenever I hear someone say, I'm friends with all my exes, I don't deal with that person. I'm friends with all my exes means I can't let go. I always want to have the back burner plan. What if a better option comes along? These people are largely opportunists and snakes. But they'll gaslight you about it, being like, oh, they're only a friend. They're just a friend. Yeah, we had a relationship like in the past, but that's not even relevant anymore. If it's not relevant anymore, they should have no problem letting it go. You want to ask yourself why they haven't done that. People who can't let go of the past permanently will continually have the past manifest in their present. Might be a different form, but it'll be the same situation and likely the same people, or same energy, different body. People who are very serious about their relationships and about thriving within their own lives don't entertain this type of diluted energy, because the thinner you spread yourself, the less you have to give, even to yourself. And if you're talking about a romantic relationship, this kind of stuff can happen not even within the context of someone cheating on you. It could be that this person prioritizes their friends, they prioritize their work, they prioritize themselves. And while there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, it also, like, they confuse themselves by thinking, I'm going to prioritize you. They can't do that. They might think they can, but really everyone's just getting a shit version of them, some lukewarm, watered down nonsense. Let the streets have them.
Fake it till you make it, ma'am. If you don't have it, no one can give it to you. It's called self-esteem.
Not all the advice that Shira gives is terrible, but this one is. Don't fake it till you make it. Be who you are. That is the key to self-esteem and to effortless manifestation. So if you're someone who feels like they don't have a lot of self-esteem, or you have low self-esteem, I'm going to talk a little bit about self-esteem and how you can go about raising it. And just a clue, you're not raising or lowering or really doing much of anything. In fact, for things like confidence and self-esteem, you are doing not much of anything. A lot of people get confidence and high self-esteem mixed up with seeming impressive. People think they have to do something to build self-esteem. It sounds like something that you are creating or some type of a skill set, which is why I don't really talk about confidence or self-esteem. I talk about inherent value and self-worth. Your inherent value is not dependent on anything. My value and worth remain the same regardless of whether I am sick or well, abled or disabled, productive or non-productive. I could just sit on this couch forever and I would still be worthy. And that's the thing about self-esteem, or acting from your worth. It's not something that you have to build, it's just something that you have to realize. When you actually realize your inherent worth and you start acting from that place, you just can't not be confident. So you don't have to learn to do anything, you don't have to do anything to impress anybody, you don't have to build any skills, you don't have to make any money, you just have to understand that you're worthy right now. And in understanding that no one can take it from you, and it's also not dependent on anything outside of you. So how do you go about understanding your worth? Well, it's pretty simple. Affirm it. When you're brushing your teeth in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and just think to yourself, I am worthy, I am worthwhile, I am important, I have a lot to offer. People value the things that I say, people value who I am as a person. Every time you wash your hands, you can say it out loud. And affirmations are not brainwashing. Remember, thoughts are already manifestations of an existing energy. If you are having the thought, then it already exists inside you. The thought is arising from that value. You affirming it is just getting you in the habit of being differently. And then boom, automatic self-esteem.
It's not gonna suck so much, and I'm gonna get people that can help me through my shit.
I know this video is old, but I think it's really important to share again because so many of us go through this. And I remember the point in my life where I was feeling like this. And it is incredibly painful and it feels incredibly lonely. In general, the people that you are going to meet within your day-to-day life are just not going to be equipped to deal with any of this. Even a lot of people within healing spaces are not going to be equipped to deal with this. It's just an unfortunate reality that most people, even the most well-intentioned, just don't have the inner capacity nor the intellectual capacity to really be in these situations with others. And also, proactively, if you are someone who currently feels this way right now, if you're someone who considers themselves spiritual, maybe you're in the manifestation community and you've done all of your work and you feel like you keep attracting people who need to change. You are reflecting that to them, and it's your job to tell them something about themselves. No. Now, you may need to change, but it is actually not at all anyone's responsibility nor anyone's place to tell someone else that they need to change. You can do it all you want, but you will usually be met with a lot of resistance. And yeah, those people are gonna leave, because it's really not for us to be telling people, hey, you're doing it wrong and I know what's right for you. So you need to listen to me. And I'll say this person actually said, you need to grow the fuck up, or, kind of get out. And well, they made their choice. So if you're approaching somebody with that harsh kind of know-it-all energy, like, why wouldn't they leave? Someone needs to decide for themselves to change. Only they can do that. And if we don't like the experience that we're getting of another person, depending on the nature of the relationship, it is for us to remove ourselves or to create boundaries with that person. Because believing it is your job to be someone else's spiritual catalyst, savior, the change agent, that is incredibly narcissistic. And I don't mean pathologically, but none of us is that important, while simultaneously being incredibly important and significant, but not in that way, and that's an entirely different conversation. When someone's ready for growth and change, they will come to you, and they will state it specifically. And most people just want to vent. They want to relieve frustration. They don't actually want to leave their situations. And when you take on this role, you are constantly going to be overgiving and then abandoned. But then no one asked you to give that. So stop. Why don't I manifest from delusion? Well, while the universe is not all mental, the mind is a very powerful thing. Perception is a very powerful thing. And when we affirm to ourselves, there's a particular way we want to structure the affirmation, because we are, in fact, speaking that into our mind. And there are things that tend to stay within our thoughts, certain ideas that we have, things that we want to accomplish that come back, or they just never go away. They persist in our mind, and usually that particular thing is a sign that some of that potential is in us. And what I mean by some of that potential is that sometimes someone will have a dream to be a commercially successful actor. And not everybody who has that dream goes on to become a commercially successful actor, even if they have the passion, even if they're taking consistent action towards that. Because no one is in total control of an outcome like that. There's a lot of serendipity, a lot of luck, a lot of things that it doesn't matter how positive you are, it just might not happen for you. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it, that you shouldn't try, but understand if certain things don't work out for you, understand the realm in which you're operating. Because a lot of time when people hear you can manifest anything that you conceive of, that you dream about, when they go for it and then they don't get it, or they manifest somewhere on the spectrum of that thing, but not their ultimate dream, they start blaming themselves and feel awful and like they did something wrong, when that's simply not true. But a lot of times when someone has a goal like commercially successful actor, they think that's what they want, but what they really want is love, consistent attention, and respect. And you can have those things without being a commercially successful actor. So it's not that you won't manifest, but the manifestation might not take the form that you originally conceived of. And so how does this pertain to delusion and affirmation? Well, I would never, ever affirm to myself that what I am doing is delusional, because it's not. The potential is in me. It is not a delusion to understand my own capabilities and my own worth. And when you say, I'm going to be delusional, what you are doing is manifesting from self-deprecation, which is low self-esteem. If you are delusional, how in fact are you seeing your actual worth? You're affirming to yourself, I'm crazy because I'm not really capable of this. I'm not worth this. I'm not this valuable. I'm delusional. And you're not going to catch me out here doing that. It is not delusion for me to be exactly who I am. All I need is time. And then watch me do what I'm going to do. No matter the odds stacked against me, I will persist. And I will manifest somewhere on the spectrum. Remember, for as long as it's a delusion, it can never be real. quick reminder. If you are around any people and they can only talk about past events about you, it's like stuff that maybe happened years ago, and that is the only thing that they can talk about when they're around you or when they're trying to strike up conversations with you or with you and maybe another group of people. And you'll find this really weird. You'd be like, why is this person bringing that up? That was like 1,000,000 years ago. That is because that person is actually from a timeline and dimension of another self of yours that you are no longer embodying. That shit diverged, you went to another timeline and dimension, and that person went to another. And that's why they can only talk about things that that other dimension and timeline person version of you has done. These people are not meant to go forward with you. Minimize your time or cut them out completely if you can, because they will consistently be pulling you back or attempting to pull you back into that old energy, into that old dimension, into that old timeline.
I believe he's inflexible.
While the universe is not all mental, we all know what we believe about ourselves and certain situations affects us significantly. If we don't have the capacity to understand something in our own minds, if those particular synapses and neural pathways have not lined up, then essentially that thing almost cannot exist for us. So yes, mindset is important, but focusing primarily on the mind, making that the dominant space for your manifestations, it is going to hinder you long term, and you are not even operating at half of your power. The mind is actually a very narrow aperture for channeling energy. It's your heart and sometimes the gut as well, but predominantly the heart for creation. That is the nuclear reactor, because that's where the energy, the energy is actually in the heart and also, yes, in the solar plexus and in the gut. And the mind is more of a director. So what we believe about ourselves is very important. But what about what other people believe about us? And this is why who we choose to surround ourselves with is extremely important. And it has way less to do with what someone is currently dealing with in their material circumstances. Because a lot of these times, these beliefs get very pernicious when it comes to don't hang out with poor people or else you'll catch the poor. Don't hang out with sick people or else you'll become sick. Misha's trying to sneak and get some coffee. Do not drink that coffee. And the thing is, truly expansive, high vibe people can actually be around anything and anyone, and it's not really going to detrimentally affect them at all. But not all of us are there. And if we reach that space, sometimes we're not going to be there all the time. But it matters less what someone is going through materially at the moment, and way more what their energy is. And the way you're gauging someone's energy is, yes, how it feels to be around them, but also what they are speaking to you and about you. Because while it is most important to maintain a consistent belief about yourself, if you surround yourself with people who are consistently speaking negativity over you, it will affect you. And if it was me, I would be asking myself why I was choosing to be around those people in the first place. Because other people's conceptions and perceptions of you can hold you in a particular place you don't want to be, especially if those people have power over you. If your boss thinks you can't, where are you going to go in that company?
Have you guys tried being yourself?
That's it. That's the only good advice in this entire conversation. And by the way, that is the key to actual effortless manifestation. Stop faking it till you make it. Stop being delusional. Be who you are. That is the key to becoming the gravitational force in your own life. And when you become the gravitational force in your own life, things start coming into your orbit that are aligned with that force. That is the key to that effortless, attractive manifestation that people covet so much. Manifesting for validation, manifesting to escape your current reality, manifesting for validation, performing, attempting to impress somebody. All of that is desperate, low self-esteem energy. And it's cowardly as well. Because what you are telling yourself is, I can't be who I am. No one will love me unless I'm someone else. I'm actually terrible. I can't be me and have what I want. I have to be someone else entirely. I have to kill my old self. You're enacting energetic violence on yourself, and that does tend to come back around on you. It's manifestation as self-harm. It takes far more courage to be who you actually are all day, every day, and let certain things just fall away from you that aren't for you, and then let the things come in that are actually for you. Because most people are not themselves. They're terrified of being who they are because who they are might not have the same social status, might not make as much money, might actually be mocked by other people. And so they live their lives performing. Perhaps they do have lots of money, or they're really envied by other people for the particular partner that they've chosen, the body they have, the career that they've entered. But because they are not themselves, they are forever condemned to suffering. Because none of that is actually what they want. They've just done it for all of this external validation, which can always be taken from you, by the way. And so there they are with a body that's not theirs, with money they don't care about, with a partner they don't love, with a career they don't care about. But hey, I guess you have the admiration of people who are too brainwashed to know any different? Sounds great. Where do I sign up? Let's talk about what brings a lot of people to manifestation initially. And if my gloss looks sloppy, it's because it's a mask. What attracts people to manifestation and a lot of magical practices in general is control, which is completely understandable. Life gets really rough sometimes, it gets really scary, and a lot of times we feel out of control, which we are. So when you hear about something that is promising you control over what you are experiencing in your life, as well as feeling good all the time, that's the manifestation promise, not with other magical systems, but manifestation in particular. It is absolutely natural that people would jump on that and try to figure it out and hope that it's true and really commit to wanting to believe that that is absolutely the case. But here's the thing, there is no system, no technique, no nothing out there that is going to give you total control over what you're experiencing in your life. And it's those promises that really end up hurting people in the long term when it comes to manifestation practices. Because inevitably, life is larger than you, the universe, source, is larger than you, and when it moves, you are irrelevant, as are your wants and needs, unfortunately. And that doesn't mean you can't improve your life with manifestation techniques. It doesn't mean that you can't experience increased agency and, yes, experiencing way more of your preference. That is absolutely possible. But not the 100% control, not the 100% guaranteed results. You are typically going to get something on the spectrum of whatever it is you're manifesting. But all that 100% guaranteed stuff is just marketing. And let's talk about that control. While I always remind people, you can manifest from whatever vibes, energy you like. A low vibe or a high vibe is not going to stop you from intentional manifestation. However, whatever it is that you manifest is created out of your original intention. And the original intention is the quality of your energy or your vibe. So if you're looking to manifest something from low vibes that are going to take your vibe higher, it's not going to happen long term. It'll just reinforce the original intention, or in some cases, amplify it, make it worse. And coming to manifestation from a space and energy of control is the space and energy of fear. When you're here for 100% control, the 100% guarantee, you are already manifesting from low vibes. And anyone offering you this as part of your program is also in a low vibrational state. So naturally, you've matched. So try to shift that control into more agency. It's softer energy, and it's most definitely something you can achieve. Let me tell you one of the many things Abraham Hicks was wrong about. That thoughts come first. That thoughts are what generate energy or dictate mood. Wrong. Energy is eternal, so how could a thought generate it? Thoughts are a mental phenomenon. The aggregate energetic flavor of the totality of your thoughts can tell you a lot about the energy you're currently embodying. It's the energy that's first because the energy never went anywhere and it's not going anywhere. It's just here. The only thing that shifts is the tone, the resonance, the frequency, the vibes. Thoughts are already a manifestation of the existing energy. What does get tricky though is that if you lean into thoughts or believe them, yes, that will influence your mood or your energy. When you think the thoughts are real and not just a phenomena, when you believe they are the energy, that is when they start controlling your energy. So no, thoughts aren't primary because the universe is not all mental. That's another big fat misconception. We perceive the universe or our version of the universe through our five senses, and that's translated through our mental faculties. What we are experiencing is not reality. It is our perception of reality. If you want to take it theistically, you would say God always existed. Then God thought, then God spoke, and then it was good. But God was first, not the thought. And this is also why you can just stop stressing whatsoever about high or low vibes, or at least thinking about them in terms of good and bad. They're actually all good. All vibes are good, because high and low vibes are part of a healthy energetic ecosystem. That's why it's silly to get upset about the concept of something like a demon, if that's the way you want to think about that. They're supposed to be there, so let them do their thing and stop obsessing about them. What would a wonderful symphony be without low vibes? Why would you ever want to get rid of that? So stop worrying about your thoughts. Stop worrying about the quality of your vibe and just enjoy the music. And that's just one thing Abraham Hicks is wrong about, though they did make a lot of good points in their time. And without them, manifestation would not be as mainstream as it is today. And for that, I'm grateful, because now we can move beyond them and into the new, which isn't new at all. This one's really weird and it might not be accurate, but I'm going to throw it out there just in case it helps somebody communicate a little better with their partner. And all of the little stories and anecdotal evidence that I've had about this is usually women talking about communicating with men, and somehow the communication has gone awry. But likely this isn't a gendered thing, so if you notice it happening with someone who is femme, presenting, female, all that stuff, like, you can try this as well. And this is just me also giving people the benefit of the doubt that they are also not being intentionally crappy, okay? But you would know your situation better than I would. So if you think someone is deliberately treating you poorly, deliberately not listening to you, or using weaponized incompetence, you would know that better than I would, and, move on with your life. You don't need to be dealing with a person like that. So the examples of this communication that I hear is a woman will tell a man that, hey, I want any of these things. Like, it's usually an object, or telling them to get something, or telling them about a certain thing that they want to do. And they'll be like, I want any of these except not this one. Any of these things, any of these events, just not this one. I hate this one. And then on the day when they receive the gift or they attend the event, their man has in fact gotten them the thing that they said they didn't want. And this leads to, understandably, a lot of upset, because from the woman's perspective, she has emphasized, I do not want this thing. Now, benefit of the doubting. From a manifestation perspective, things have actually gone exactly as they should have gone. Why? Because the universe doesn't hear no. In my experience, a lot of cis-het men, they kind of tune out what they feel is noise, which has to do with chatter. It's sort of like, oh, this is just irrelevant talking. I'm only going to key in on the relevant points. So when they hear you emphasize something, that is the relevant point that I must key into. So when you say any of these things, but not this one, You have now emphasized this one. So even though you've said do not want, you have emphasized that particular one. It's maybe clocking as this is the important thing that I should pay attention to, therefore get that thing. Try only saying what you want and being very specific. Don't give a lot of options. And then if they jack that up, I don't know, go get another one. It's an abundant universe. Let's talk about synchronicity and why synchronicity might not be for the best when you're manifesting. So if for some reason you don't know, synchronicities are when you are getting energetic feedback within materiality that reflects the intentional manifestation that you are looking to intentionally manifest. So a really common beginner exercise that a lot of people will do is they will say, I want a purple butterfly. And then eventually you're going to get energetic feedback that returns purple butterfly to you in materiality. And nowadays, most commonly, you are going to get that initial synchronicity through your phone. But you'll also tend to get it in your material world as well. Now for me, this is going on due to the interaction of the state of transmission and the state of affirmation. Those two states combined are what we used to understand as the law of attraction, which is the least relevant part of manifestation. So you're getting this feedback due to the most dominant energetic signal that you're putting out at any one given time. And why you shouldn't really stress about it is because no one signal is just one thing all the time. You're going to be getting a lot of energetic feedback, which is also a way that you don't stress out over what is showing up in your material environment. It's not a big deal. Why? Because the state of engagement is the most relevant thing for manifestation. If you see something that you don't prefer within your materiality, just don't freaking engage with it. Let it recede and vanish. So a lot of people think that you really want a lot of synchronicity, and if your synchronicities tend to taper off, then perhaps you're doing something wrong. And so what people will do is they will really lean into and feed into the synchronicity, and this is usually a mistake. I'm going to tell you why. If you're paying attention, you will know that there is a certain energetic signature that tends to generate synchronicity. And at first, this energy tends to be very pleasurable to experience. And so if people have been conditioned to follow their bliss, they believe that what they're experiencing right then is bliss, which is why I also don't care for those statements. But if something is making you feel elated, intoxicated, high, that's not the energy that you want to lean into. Anything that's making you feel high is also eventually going to leave you feeling hungover. When you lean way too hard into synchronicities, you will tend to experience a high and then a resultant awful crash. You really want an even keel energetically, which is why I tend to use fulfillment and not bliss. And also, do you want a lot of synchronicity or do you want what you want? You are participating in the creation of those synchronicities. So how big a deal are they really? This is another one that might be rambly, but there's something to this that I'm looking to get out, and hopefully one day I'll be able to articulate it appropriately. This has to do with low vibes and manifesting from low vibes. And I'm typically the one saying like there really no such thing as low vibes, and vibes are relative. What is low vibe to another person is another person's high vibe actually, and they can manifest from it and that state just fine. It might not be the way you want to manifest, and the things that they're creating might not be what you want to create, but they can still work with it. However, there are consequences to manifesting from consistent low vibes. And while I will never be the person that's saying something like, oh, this bad thing happened to you because you were on the frequency of that bad thing, there is, however, a nuanced truth to people creating their own suffering. Like, it's a common phrase, right? We are the architects of our own misery. So you can have somebody out here saying, oh, I'm tired of this, oh, I'm never dealing with that again, but their actions are conveying a totally separate message, and they will find themselves continually in that situation that they claim they don't want to be in. And it's generally because that thing, that dynamic, whatever it is, That is still in their energy. And when you work through it, when you finally clear it, whatever it is, or just become aware of it, usually you can begin to step out of it, or you can just drop it altogether. And some people work this process throughout their manifestations within materiality. I tend to not do that because that gets extremely messy. I prefer to take a step back and do a lot of energy work before I intentionally do stuff in materiality. And some people, unfortunately, never work through whatever these dynamics or whatever this energy is. Because this kind of stuff tends to come from being raised in horribly abusive environments. And when that occurs to you from birth, it's very hard to conceptualize something outside of that. It would be like a fish understanding it's in water. You don't really think that's air you're breathing, do you? And it's well documented within the realms of psychotherapy and psychiatry that people who experienced certain toxic dynamics in childhood will tend to replicate those very dynamics going on as an adult or young adult, whatever. They call it re-victimization, I think. And once you accept and work through all of that, it is very difficult for situations like that to ever remanifest in your life. So yes, there is some nuanced truth to being on the frequency of something. But even if I work through that energy, it doesn't mean that nothing bad's ever going to happen to me again. None of this is a perfect closed system. Let's talk about why believing is seeing and why realization is manifestation. First of all, the energy or the potentiality of something already exists. That is already in you and it presides predominantly within the heart. However, you are not going to be able to do anything with that potentiality until you line up your mind space with your heart space and a few other spaces, but those are the two big ones for manifestation. And this is why we do things like affirmations and habit change. And this is where the ideas like fake it till you make it come from. But I'm not affirming any fake it till you make it. There's nothing fake about what I'm doing. This is real. If you're affirming fake, how can it become real? You're adding time onto something that doesn't need to be there. But whatever, as Abraham Hicks would say, you're getting ready to be ready. And it's the same with manifesting from delusion. There's a wobble in delusion. Manifesting from delusion is getting ready to be ready. Because once you're ready, there is no delusion. There is no faking. You simply are. And you can do that without the extra steps. So then the affirmations, the thoughts that you are using to line your mind space up with your heart space, those statements arise out of the energy that already exists or the truth that is in your heart, your authenticity. The only things affirmations and spells are really doing is lining the shit up. And once it's aligned, that's when it manifests. That is why believing is seeing. Because until you truly know something, without a doubt, until you understand it is who you are going to have significant trouble creating it and maintaining it. It might blip in for a second and then it's gonna go just as quickly as it came because you don't understand it. You haven't realized it. You don't believe it. When you don't believe something, when you can't understand it, you can't perceive it. Something can be in your reality right now, but if you do not have the mind space to perceive it, it may as well not exist. So manifestation is way less about creating something than it is just seeing it, just understanding it. And that's also what dimensional shifting is. Once your perception of yourself and of situations around you shifts dramatically, you are no longer in the same space materially. So ultimately, it's not faith or belief you're looking for. It is absolute knowing. Quick manifestation tip. If you want a manifestation in general to go quicker, start removing things from your life. And this shouldn't just be anything, it should be things that no longer match with you, that you're just putting up with, that you don't use anymore, things like that. Once you create that space, then new manifestations will come in to fill the vacuum. If there are too many old things taking up space, the new things cannot come in. This accumulates material and energetic baggage. And this also will not take the place of being ready or correct for that issue. If you are not ready, if you have not decided, if you have not committed, then it is not likely the manifestation will come in general. Sometimes this will happen, but it's generally not preferable. So if something is taking longer than you are preferring it, just remind yourself, I have lots of time to get ready. This is for my ultimate benefit. If I'm not ready, why would I want it to come?